What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Smart TV, and there's a new syllabus for HSC English, and it's completely changed the game for how you need to study to ace HSC English. Now in the past, the approach that many students took, if you asked any student that nailed HSC English, band 6, state ranker, what they would have told you is that their approach generally was to write a model essay for a module A, B or C, write a model essay that was really, really broad and then memorize it like crazy and then go into an exam and adapt it, right? Look at the question and adapt it, but knowing that the model essay would probably be pretty similar to the question they would get in the exam. And the same went for the creative writing component. It'd be write an incredible creative writing story, get feedback, refine it, memorize it, and then go into the exam and once again, look at the stimulus, adapt it, and then write your new creative. And this worked, it was a really proven pathway. It meant that, to be honest, you could not even be amazing at English, but if you did the work, you refined your texts with feedback, you did the memorization, you would be fine. And I knew students, crazily enough, that never even read their texts. Like, they just watched the film version and they, looked at the Spark notes and they managed to get a band 6 for English under this old syllabus. Now things have changed, right? And this is exactly what the Board of Studies, or NESA, the New South Wales Education Standards Authority, have been trying to counteract. The fact that English got really stale, formulaic, and that you could really just rote learn a whole lot of stuff, go in and do well. And what this means as a result is the way in which you need to study for English is going to need to completely change. If you go in using the same approaches and strategies, the results that you're going to get are going to look particularly hairy. So in this video, what I'm going to be sharing with you is actually, okay, with these changes for this new syllabus, how do you need to study and prepare for English to make sure that you can maximize your marks and the options you get at the end of your HSC. So what are these changes? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through paper 1 and paper 2. Now, there isn't an official exam paper that's been released yet by NESA, but there is a sample HSC exam that they have produced. So we can look at this and already get a very good idea of what you're going to be expected to do for your trials and your HSC exams, and therefore how you should be preparing and studying for HSC English. So I've got paper 1 in front of me, and the structure is going to be a little different, right? There's no longer a creative writing element in paper 1, that's been moved into paper 2. So you're just going to have to do two things. The first is you're going to have a range of stimulus texts that you're going to have to respond to. And in the past, what worked really well was to go in with around your area of study, be it belonging, journeys, discovery. You'd go in with, like a set of really narrow themes or ideas that you'd be working on about discovery, for example, and then you'd be basically applying those to the questions. Now, the challenge here is that the new module is text and human experience. It's much broader, right? There isn't necessarily a super narrow set of predefined human experiences that you can go in with. Sure, it could help to certainly have a good idea of these, but it's going to be a little harder, and the questions therefore are going to require you to just understand human experience a lot better and the breadth of it. So as an example, you've got questions like compare how each of the two posters, which is the stimulus, create a sense of shared human experience. The second question is explore how, text 2 and 3 explore the paradoxes in human experience. And then another example is, explore the significance of remembering and memories in the individual human experience. So you can see that there's a lot of complexity here in these sorts of questions, which is going to mean that you're going to need to know your text and human experience and the ability to read texts and draw out from them human experience really, really well. So that's the first part of paper 1. Now the second part is where things get a little trickier, because in the past you would have memorized a response, an essay that you'd written to a broad question. Let's see if that's going to be possible though when I read you some of the questions that they have put in this sample paper. So the first one is analyze how representation of the natural environment shapes your understanding of family in the text. Right? Now all of a sudden that's quite specific, right? Natural environment, family for your text. But we're sort of just warming up, really, right? If we look at some other examples here that we can have a look at, right? We've got another example of how is your understanding of the challenges of human experience being shaped by the director's use of mise-en-scène in your prescribed text? Like, wow, super specific. So what this shows is that you certainly can't just rote memorize responses here. You need to be able to know your text really well. You need to be able to know, the form and the structure and the literary devices that have been used to actually create meaning around human experience to go in. So it means that you could get a much broader range of questions that is thrown at you. So now that's paper 1. Let's take a super quick look at paper 2. Now paper 2 you're going to discover has a similar theme, right? The questions are very, very specific. So if I have a look at module A, we've got here a quote, "Never again will a single story be told as though it is only one." And then to what extent is this statement true in the light of the exploration of textual conversations? So we're seeing here that if there's anything, mod A's probably got the most likelihood that you'll be able to identify some broad questions in practice and come in and write a model response and do some tweaking and some adaptation. Because, look, the questions are specific, but there's a little bit more, wriggle room, right? I say a little bit because, the other example question that they've given here is explain the centrality of the motif of performance in textual conversation between the Tempest and Hagseed. So you're seeing that they could still give you quite a specific form or feature of the text that they want you to explore. And that could really be challenging if you've memorized a response. I think the real kicker though is if we go to mod C. Mod C is the new craft of writing. It's essentially taken the creative writing element from paper 1 and moved it to paper 2, right? Now in the past, you just memorized that creative, as I've already shared. Let's see if you can do that though with the types of questions you're likely to get. So for example, one of the questions that they've given is choose a character, persona or speaker from one prescribed text that you have studied in module C. Express the thought process of this character, persona or speaker by exploring a moment of tension in the text from an alternate point of view. Wow, right? Like all of a sudden you cannot memorize something for that, right? Because you've got so many variables in the mix. And then you've got to also, as a second part of that question, justify the creative decisions that you have made. So that's one example. The second example is they give you a quote and they say, using this as a stimulus for a piece of persuasive, discursive or imaginative. So the text type could be different. That expresses your perspective about a significant concern or idea that you've engaged with in one of your prescribed texts from mod A, B or C. So all of a sudden it's not just about mod C, you could be pulling ideas from mod A, B and C into this. So my point being here is that this is really changing the game for how you prepare for your assessments and exams, particularly your trials and your HSC. So given the changes that are coming for this new HSC exam for English and for your trials, how do you prepare for it? What should you do? Well, I think firstly what it shows, as I've highlighted, is that rote memorization is not going to work. So really what you're going to need to know is you're going to need to know your texts incredibly well. No more last minute sort of stuff in terms of last minute prep, all of a sudden watching the film version, looking at Sparks notes, writing the essay, getting someone to give you feedback and tighten it up really, really quickly. That's generally not going to cut it, right? It's going to take you longer to actually work on stuff because you're going to need to know the text fundamentally at its foundations, because you could be asked anything from it in much degree of greater specificity. So what this means, well, read the book first of all. So important. As much as you might want to avoid it, read the book. Watch the film if it's actually a film. Really critical. Secondly, one of the things you can do is create something called a T table. Super simple, but it helps you go through your text in really granular detail. Basically, any idea or theme that you're going to be talking about is the T, as part of the sort of T in theme, right? Then the next thing you're going to do is for all of those ideas, every time you see that idea in your text, I want you to write the examples from the text in the next column. Nice and simple. And I'll put an article below this video with a link that we share where we go through this. Secondly, in the third column, you then want to put what's the technique? Is it the literary, the filmic device, whatever it is? Just be explicit, identify it, and then finally, what you want to do is you want to do some analysis. How does that example and that device say something meaningful and interesting about the idea that you're looking at in relation to your text. That's going to help you get a really strong textual understanding. Now beyond that, you're going to have to know how to write an essay really, really well, and not one that you've just been able to perfect memorize, like on the fly in an exam. And that means you're going to need to get really good at building a skill of identifying and creating thesis statements, writing strong, convincing analysis. And this takes time to develop. Once again, it's not something you can turn on at the last minute. So you need to start working on English much earlier on in the year. So if you're needing help, don't wait too long. Don't say, oh, see how I go, oh crap, right? Get some help, and we can help at Artist Smart. We've got an incredible team of teachers, tutors and mentors that can support you, across Sydney and in our campus in Hornsby. So one of the things that we've done is we've built text-specific resources. Dr. Anna McHugh, who leads up English, who's written multiple textbooks for schools across New South Wales, has designed these, and the designers support students. So we're prepped and ready for this new syllabus to help. Now, what about creatives? What can you do for creatives? Well, likewise, it's going to be very hard for you to memorize a creative, because you could be asking to talk about a character in one of your texts, and you could be asked to not do a creative, but to do a discursive or an imaginative, so it's going to be more complex. And again, what that means is you need to get better at the building blocks of what it means to write a good creative piece. So you're going to need to know characterization, setting, voice, perspective, plot, right? You're going to need to know these building blocks a lot more in detail and a lot more effectively, so that when you get into an exam condition with time and a new question that's thrown at you, you've actually got the skills to be able to get in there and write something great. And that's really the key for this new course. It's really about developing your skills, your writing skills, and your ability to reflect and say something interesting and meaningful. And that takes time. You can't develop that last minute, even if you hate English and have no skill, right? It's going to take some time. So there we go. I hope that helps you get a better understanding of what this new English syllabus sort of looks like in terms of expectations for the HSC exams and your trials, and therefore what it means for you, right, in terms of how you actually approach and study for this new HSC English syllabus and course. If you have any questions about it, please leave a comment below. Myself and our team would love to help you and support you on your journey. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We do videos every single week, and so I will see you next week.